What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Just a Guy on My Lunch Break, and that is to be taken quite literally because I am, in fact, on my lunch break right now from my full-time job. If you'd rather call me by my first name, Corey, C-O-R-Y, no E. I have relatives that have known me for 47 years, and they still can't leave out that E for some reason on Christmas presents or cards. That's a true story, by the way. True story. C-O-R-Y, no E. I'll take it either way. You know, I know what you mean. I know what you're getting at. But this is a channel where I talk about life, love, happiness, a little bit of sadness, a little bit of kratom, a little bit of addiction, substance use. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about my current place with kratom, because I've been doing a kratom taper. I'm going to talk about where I'm at with that. That's one thing. Second thing, a little bit about my mission on this channel, if you could really call it a mission, seeing as how I'm here, I'm there, I'm over there. I'll talk about a little bit of everything, a little bit of life. But you know, the biggest thing for me is to set up an open forum and a platform where everyone can come and talk freely and share ideas and opinions regarding and surrounding addiction, whether that relates to kratom use or something else. Typically it's kratom use. That's mainly what we talk about on here, and most anyone that is subscribed to the channel either has some previous history with kratom or they're currently on kratom, right? And so we're going to go into a little bit of that, and then from there I'm going to look at some folks' comments. So first I'm going to talk a little bit. Before I get into it, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this sort of content. If you find it, you know, what's a good word? I think I can do better than that. If you find it invigorating, or if you find it refreshing to find someone who is going to talk about these sort of subjects without going, well, you should be doing it this way, well, you should be doing it that way, and then everybody's back and forth in the comments pointing fingers at one another. Why should you be doing this? You should be doing that. Now, don't get me wrong. Does that mean that it's wrong for people to express their opinions, or for people to have differing opinions surrounding addiction, kratom use, all of these other things? Of course not. We're all living, breathing, you know, flesh and bone individuals, and we all have our separate brains which develop different outlooks and opinions on things throughout the years. A lot of that is shaped by nurture, a lot of that is shaped by nature. It's just genetic, who we are. But either way, my mission is more to teach people how to collectively share this knowledge without all the bickering, right? Without the bickering, with a little diplomacy, you know, with a little, I hate to use the word sensitivity, because the word sensitivity comes with sort of a negative connotation in this age of 2024. People hear the word sensitivity and it's almost like, oh, you know, you think of like the safe space, or, you know, I'm all in my feels, you know, I'm all in my feelings, or don't hurt my feelings. I know, you know, wrap me in, take me up in bubble wrap and set me in a dark room somewhere where I don't have to hear all the negativity and say, you know, it's not about that. It's not about that. But something that I'm passionate about is that I believe that in this world, we can all get to a better place of understanding surrounding all different types of topics, you know, whether they be personal or impersonal or indifferent, if they don't even matter, whichever. Whether they're important, unimportant, indifferent, whatever it is, I feel like we could all get to a place of collective understanding and acceptance if we would practice, when we talk to one another, a little more diplomacy, a little more sensitivity. If you don't know what diplomacy is, it basically just means being able to word things to people in a way to where you're not immediately offending them and calling them an idiot and you're right and they're wrong for what they believe versus what you believe. All right, it matters. It matters to me. It matters. and that, you know, that's kind of probably what my mission is. But anyway, I'm putting the cart before the horse here. I was gonna talk about my Kratom taper first. So as of yesterday, I'm down to about 17 grams, which that might seem like a lot to some people, may seem like a little to others. You know, as of about 2 months ago, I was up to easily 40 grams per day, just tossing it back, you know, every couple hours when I feel like, whenever I felt like it, whatever the case is, and taking heaping spoonfuls of it, might I add, okay, which is definitely not a healthy way to go about using Kratom. But we're going to delve into that, what are more healthy ways of using Kratom, or a healthier alternative to using Kratom. A lot of the last part of the video is going to be based around that. So given that I was using 35, 40, sometimes maybe even 45, 50 grams per day of Kratom a couple of months ago, to be down to a measly 17 grams where I'm only dosing 3 times a day, around 5 grams 3 times a day. I'm putting 4, 5, even 6 hours in between my doses sometimes. So I'll take my first dose sometime around 7:15 in the morning, right before I head out to work and make myself a cup of coffee. I'll take it about 7:15, and I'm not taking another dose until right around 11:45, which is, you know, 20 minutes ago now. So that's right. Yeah, I'm starting to feel it a little bit. That's part of it, the increase in mood and energy and all that stuff. So anyway, then my third dose, and that's also 5 grams, so it's 5 grams each time. My next order of business starting next week is to start cutting those 5 grams down a little. In other words, instead of 5 grams each dose, I'm going to start doing maybe on my morning dose like a 2.5 gram in the morning, then 5 for the afternoon, then 5 for the evening. So I'm going to start cutting it back a couple of grams at a time, right? Like 1 less teaspoon for each dose that I do ultimately, which will knock it down even significantly more. So I'm taking the around noontime dose, which is about 4.5 hours after my first dose. So I'm no longer doing the interdosing. I haven't done that in probably close to 2 weeks now. And a quarter kilo of Kratom has lasted me over 2 weeks, which it's been months since, it's been never really that a quarter kilo of Kratom powder has lasted me over 2 weeks. I was like, damn, I'm saving a bunch of money. That tends to happen when you cut back your use a lot. But anyway, the third dose I would not take until right around 5:30, 6:30 in the evening after I get home from work. I get off at 5 every day, just like clockwork. I've got about a 30-minute commute back to my home, so I get home right around 5:30. 3 or 4 days out of the week, as soon as I get home, I'll change into my workout clothes. I'll do some sort of exercise, some sort of intense cardio workout or something like that. That's just something I do. It makes me feel good. And then I'll shower. Then I'll take my evening dose. On days where I don't work out, I might take my third dose of the day right around 5:40, 5:45, something like that. And if you put all that together, you know, I took my second dose of the day right around 11:45, 12 o'clock. So you can count the hours there, 5:45, 6 o'clock. I'm putting a good 5.5, close to 6 hours in between that third dose, okay? And what that does, and what I find, is it starts to help you get to the point of your body's not anticipating it every hour or every 2 hours or every time the you know, intenseness of the buzz, because Kratom is a short acting substance. You all know that. You take it, you feel really good and really high for like an hour tops, and then you're kind of like, oh, well, I'm starting to come down a little bit. But that gets less and less and less if you avoid taking it in those interdose time periods. So that part of it's getting easier. You know, going the 4 hours to 5 hours to 6 hours in between my doses, that part's starting to get easier. I mean, obviously I don't have the mood lift, I don't have the energy lift, But it's getting to a point where my body and my mind are not anticipating it. So I'm able to just kind of go into autopilot mode, right? But it takes a few days for that to happen. If you're a person that's taking it every hour, every couple of hours, every few hours, whatever it is, I recommend trying to get to a point where you can put some time in between your doses, because what that does is it decreases some of the consistent dependency that you have, and your body will get to a point where it'll start getting used to not having it every couple hours. It'll be used to 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, if you're only taking it 3 times a day versus 5, 6 times a day, every couple of hours, it's easier to chop down your dose, right? You know, you're taking it less often. So typically it's easier to chop that dose down. So anyway, I'm about at 17 grams, slept okay. I was definitely having some of the weird vibe-ish sort of dreams that just, I don't know why. I don't know what the explanation is to that, but dreams tend to become more lucid and much more vivid when you start to lower your amounts of something like kratom. I think what it is when you're taking a large amount of it, it's more like a sedative, and it more just causes you to just kind of pass out and just sleep really heavily, you know. And I think that probably overrides your dream state, to be honest with you. And real heavy kratom use, I mean, I would dream. I remember having dreams, but they weren't as often. They weren't as vivid. They weren't as lucid. I wasn't as likely to remember the dreams when I was on the heavier kratom. But down at 17 grams, I'm starting to remember the dreams, you know. And I had a little bit more of, like, you know, waking up every few minutes and just, but I didn't have any problem really going back to sleep, you know. So my body, I think, is relatively comfortable with that amount. And aside from the 3 doses, I only took 2 capsules throughout the night. So I took my 3rd dose, which was 5 grams, right around, well, yesterday I did it right around 6:30 because I did work out when I got home. So I did it around 6:30, and I didn't take any more kratom for the rest of the night, except when I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I took a mid-nighttime dose of 1 gram, 2 capsules to equal 1 gram. And that's all I took from 6:30 p.m. all the way up until, you know, 7:15 the next morning. So you got a good 12-hour period there where I only had 1 gram of kratom. So that's an improvement. That shows that the last 2 weeks of work and consistency that I've been putting into this taper is starting to pay off. It's starting to get a little easier. My body is starting to what? Talked about this the other day. Come on. Self-regulate. My body is starting to adjust to having the lower amounts. That's good. That's what I want. So I'll probably, well, I want to say this too. I did take a melatonin last night. Melatonin is not habit forming. That's the first time I've taken it in probably, it's been a while, probably 4 or 5 months since I've taken a melatonin. But I did it last night because the last few days I've cut my dose down pretty significantly. I went from like 19 grams on Monday to 18.5 on Tuesday to 17 on Wednesday. So as you can see, that's a pretty quick digression. Seems like those words mean the same thing. Regression. You know, that's a pretty significant cutback pretty quickly. And so I was afraid, and you know, my wife had to get up extra early this morning because she had to drive to Raleigh, which is a neighboring city, for work. So I knew she was going to be getting up earlier than normal, and that was probably going to affect my schedule to sleep. My infant son, River, that was going to affect his schedule. So I needed to get some sleep, right? I mean, your boy's 47 years old. I need to get some sleep. And I knew that. So that's why I took the melatonin. And it did help. It kind of helped me to stay asleep, and I wasn't doing the teetering in and out of sleep. And so I don't remember waking up anytime between maybe 10 o'clock and almost 3 in the morning. And so that melatonin really helped me to kind of stay asleep. And I can guarantee you, if I had not taken that melatonin, I probably would have woken up a couple of times, right? So anyway, that's a little tip for you if you're out there tapering from Kratom. So Bob at Bob Lossy 3192, he had a couple of really good takes on here that I wanted to read about. So we were talking about yesterday, instead of taking the Kratom powder, which it seems to be the prevailing thought that Kratom is similar to an opiate, and as far as what it does to you or for you, however you want to look at it, mentally or emotionally, I think all of those aspects of it and all those effects kind of always stack up about the same, right? No matter how you use it, the alkaloids in it are going to affect your psyche and your mental state and your mood and whatever, however else you want to put it, your mentality. It's going to affect you just about the same way, whether you're using Kratom, whether you're steeping it into whether you're using a Kratom powder, whether you're doing like an extract, a pill extract, whether you're doing capsules, whether you're steeping it into like a tea or something like that. But the prevailing theory is, especially as far as the physical aspect of it, because a lot of people have concerns about, okay, now what is this doing to me internally? And I freely admit, and being a person who is very, very health conscious, and you guys hear me talk about it all the time, my exercise routine, my diet, my drinking tons of water. I'm a person who is really, really good and really, really disciplined about that. My wife made a batch of probably 20 chocolate chip cookies on Monday, and they're sitting on my counter, and my 17-year-old son has eaten about half of them. You know how many I've had? One. I have walked by those chocolate chip cookies about 100 times and passed it up every time. I'm that dude. I'm very disciplined in that way, right? It'd be nice if I could be that disciplined regarding Kratom, wouldn't it? But anyway, point being that the prevailing theory seems to be that the powder itself is not really meant to be ingested. Even in countries where this plant or this tree of Kratom grows organically, indigenously, the way they typically take Kratom there is by steeping it in some sort of tea to draw out the alkaloids that give you the positive effects, but making it in a form to where it's already ready to be not only consumed, but absorbed and processed, making it easier for your body to process the alkaloids, right? And to absorb the alkaloids for better effects, okay? And it is said that the body is not really supposed to ingest the powder. And a lot of people, including myself, have concerns about that as a Kratom user, obviously. And now, I'm down to around 17 grams. I understand that's not an astronomical amount. I would definitely working to get that even lower. But even aside from that, even if it's only a few grams per day, it's always in the back of my mind, like, it's Kratom powder, it's probably not, really good for your digestive system, and I don't know. I don't know how that stacks up, because you can look into anything, whether it's a food, substance, whatever, and anything that you eat or ingest on a regular basis has some sort of impact, whether it be negative or positive, on your body. And you will be surprised, living in America, and the type of the type of dietary, not supplements, what am I trying to say? The type of diets of the average American that you see, it ain't good, bro. And I can tell you that the way a lot of people are eating, especially with the processed foods and the sodas and stuff like that, I would dare say that all that stuff is just as bad, if not worse, than taking some Kratom powder. And that's why sometimes when people come on and they try to get a little overzealous, oh, the powder's just this horrible thing and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, Coca-Cola's a horrible thing. Sugar is a horrible thing. Donuts are a horrible thing. Eating a bunch of bread, too many carbs, it's a horrible thing. Not exercising, it's a horrible thing. Drinking tea and sodas as opposed to drinking water, it's a horrible thing. All of this has negative impacts on your body. Me, I'm more about damage control, and I'm one of those people that I try to do damage control by, I do use some Kratom, and I understand that's probably not the most healthy thing But I also give my digestive system and my cardiac system, my respiratory system, my digestive system, I give it a pass in a lot of ways. I give it a little boost in a lot of ways by eating super, super healthy shit and exercising and water. And I guarantee you my body struggles way less to process 17 grams of kratom every day than some obese person. I struggle way less processing that 17 grams of kratom after drinking 100 something ounces of water every day and exercising than an obese person does trying to get rid of all the Coca-Cola that they're drinking or the carbs that they're drinking. So what I'm saying is everything has that negative. There are all kinds of things, diet, foods, drinks that have a negative footprint on our health. Okay, so I'm not here to try to get too far down into the weeds on that because I think it's all relative. You know, I don't think kratom in and of itself is just this horrible thing. I think what makes more of a difference is what else are you doing? Yeah, and I've said this a million times before. Kratom, it's what else are you doing? You know, are you taking the kratom and then you also eat shitty? And then you also lead a sedentary lifestyle and you sit and play video games or flip through your phone all day and drinking sodas and eating nothing but processed foods. I mean, if you're doing that, yeah, kratom's probably going to kick you in the teeth. But guess what? It's going to be kicking you in a teeth. It's going to be a gang attack, sort of say. Kratom is going to be one of the things kicking you in the teeth. The Coca-Colas are going to be right beside the kratom, kicking you right in the teeth. And then you're going to have the processed, TV dinners right beside the Coke, kicking you right in the teeth. And then you're going to have the, what else? Give me something else. The potato chips are going to be right beside the Coca-Cola, kicking you in the ribs. You know, it's going to be a gang effort, right? So I think it's damage control is a lot of it. And I think there's this thing where people get into collateral damage because, and then people get the wrong idea that kratom is just this horrible thing. But I think a lot of times people who take kratom also aren't living the rest of their life healthily. So then people stand back and they look and they see all these shitty things that, you know, they look at these studies where, you know, people have died and supposedly kratom was like a part of that or a cause of it. But then when you really do a deep dive and you look into those studies, you realize they were mixing it with Xanax and they were drinking 3 or 4 Monster Energy drinks every day. And then they were doing this and they were doing that. And it was a complex cocktail of different substances that these people had in their bodies at the time. And it wasn't just kratom, right? And again, don't want to go too much into the weeds on that because I have not printed out the studies. I've not done a deep dive on the studies, so I don't want to be one of those people to be out here handing out false information. But take it for what it is. I think everything in this life is relative, right? Kratom for me may not be as bad as it is for you based on other health aspects of your life. Can we all agree on that? Kratom might not be as bad for the next guy as it is for me, based on age, based on activity level, based on his diet, my diet. You see what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. Take it for what it's worth. Bob said, if I take the powder, even a fluid, I vomit for an hour. Man, I make a tea, but not in the tea bag. Not in the tea bag some sell it as. I use a half-gallon mason jar and bought the cap that has a pour spout on it. Interesting. I put 4 teaspoons of kratom in the jar and 6 teaspoons of fresh lemon juice. Not the real lemon in a squeeze bottle that's mostly vinegar. Look at the ingredients list. As Corey has told us, the lemon draws out the benefits of the kratom. I heat water, I use filtered, to 170 degrees. In capital letters here, not boiling. That's the important part. Not boiling, and fill the jar up halfway and stir the mixture for about a minute. So let me say this. This is to piggyback off what Bob is saying here. The reason you don't want it boiling is because if the water is boiling, if it's past a certain temperature, past the 170 degrees, it can damage the alkaloids, right? And then you just got yourself a mess, and it's not going to affect you, and you're not going to get a lot of positive effects or benefits from it. So the key is you want it pretty freaking hot. Like, you look at the water and you're like, okay, yeah, it's about to start boiling. You know, when you start to see the little bitty tiny bubbles starting to rise up from the bottom of the pot, that's your moment. That's your moment. You don't want to wait until it's a full-on boil. You don't want to wait that long, because at that point, the water's boiling, right? So then, when you mix the kratom into that, it can damage the alkaloid. So you want it hot, like Bob said, 170 degrees, but not boiling. And fill the jar up halfway and stir the mixture for about a minute. Then I let it sit for an hour. Then I stir it again, and the full jar to the top with additional 170 degree water. Then I let it rest for another couple of hours. The second rest isn't as much to draw out more of the kratom benefits, but sitting allows the solids to drop to the bottom of the jar. Right, okay. Then I carefully and slowly pour the tea into 4 16-ounce bottles, so I have 4 equal doses. Damn, this is good shit, Bob. You guys need to be listening. Listen to this. If you're a kratom user and you want to use it more healthily, you know, this is the kind of stuff you want to do. Make sure you stop pouring once the sludge at the bottom reaches the pour spout. Dump the sludge down the sink. You could just pour the brewed tea into another half-gallon jar and pour it as you need it. The individual bottles work for me. I tried making the tea and just drinking the sludge with it, but I threw up again. Plus, drinking the tea gets that water into you. As Corey said, you need to hydrate. I haven't found I need to refrigerate it. I take the tea because I have chronic pain, okay? I take it every day because I have pain every day. I've told my high-end doctors about it, and they did blood work on me to make sure all of my internal organs were functioning correctly and all else is fine. I've been using kratom for about 2 years, and the same dose continues to manage my pain. The bad news was about 6 months ago, I was not able to make my tea for about 2 days, and I discovered that that's when my body was addicted to kratom. Yeah, that really scared me. Bottom line, I need it to manage my pain. I'd rather deal with that addiction than have a doctor prescribe an opioid to me and face that addiction. 1,000,000%. As a guy who battled an addiction over 15 years ago to Percocets and Vicodins, and I'm talking about a fair amount, brother. I wasn't taking no, 3-4 Percocets a day. At my heaviest, I was sometimes up to 15-20 Percocets per day. And I'm talking about the effing strong ones, bro. I'm talking about the strong ones, the 7.5 gram ones, all right? I mean, these are things that they give people after they've had an invasive surgery, right? This is stuff for acute, severely acute pain. I never should have been, the fact that I even had a prescription for those is absolutely doctor neglect, and it's funny because, I could have completely probably sued that doctor, but why would I want to sue him? Well, really? Sue him and lose my prescription of Percocet? But no, to make a long story short, I actually ended up, and I've told this story before, but actually God dealt with me. I prayed about it because I could not stop taking these Percocets, and actually wrote a note, typed out a note to that physician and told them that I was abusing them and using them incorrectly and that I needed not to be prescribed them anymore. And guess what? They did it. Next time I went in, they went an alternate route with me and started giving me like Lyrica or something. I stayed on that for a short period of time because I didn't have any real pain. I didn't have any pain that warranted Percocets. I didn't. It was my addiction that was wanting me to take those. But anyway, Bob, thank you very much for that, man. Very thorough explanation as to how you do this too. I'm definitely giving this a try this weekend. I hope you guys do the same. And he says here too, I have empathy for the guy who was complaining, not because I think he's right. I'm just guessing a good part of why he's lashing out is because he's struggling with all kinds of addiction. He can't be totally rational given his circumstances right now. As for Corey, what I love about this podcast is that he gives all kinds of information for all of us to make smart judgments for ourselves, to be our best selves. Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate that, brother. And that's all I'm doing. And I have empathy for this individual as well. And I explained this in a separate comment to Bob. I try very hard to give this individual a long leash on the channel at first. But it just came to a point where I realized he wasn't willing to give that long leash in return. It was kind of his way or the highway. And I don't want to cultivate that mindset on this channel, right? Now, there are some hard truths. There's some hard realities. Addiction is addiction. I do believe that. I do believe that if you are an addict to something, especially like an opiate, that you really can't, you're always just going to be doing damage control as far as trying to maintain this lower amount and whatever, because you're always going to want to take it. Your brain is always going to cycle in that way. So you may get to a point where you have to go get professional help with that. And I'm completely on board with that and open to that. My whole thing on this channel is, even all of that being said, everybody ain't doing that shit. Let's get real. You can hear all the, you can hear all the talk. You can read all the books. You can hear all the NA has to say, AA. You can hear what any addiction specialist in the world has to say about this. And then you can still turn around and say, yeah, but I think I can control it. I think I can still take it. And that's what an addict's going to do. An addict is an addict, and that's what they're going to do. So my whole thing on the channel is give the information so that people can make their own best decisions, because you only can self-diagnose addiction. No one can diagnose for you. They can say it, but it don't matter what you say. If that person themselves hasn't accepted it and come to full realization of that and accepted personal accountability for that about themselves, then guess what? They're not going to change the way they're using the substance, right? And in the meantime, to those people, I have shit to say to them. At least do some damage control here. At least if you're going to be using the Kratom, and while you're figuring all the rest of this shit out, whether you're an addict or whether you can control it, while you're working on that, at least eat healthy, at least drink a bunch of water, at least exercise, at least get the amounts down to an amount that's not overrunning your body or your digestive system. At least make a tea out of it instead of swallowing 40, 50 grams of powder every day like I was doing 2 months ago, right? Fair to say. Oh yeah, and the last thing I was going to talk about is a cold plunge. I have one of those tall bathtubs, really deep bathtubs that sits by itself. I'll take a quick video of it a little later. I was thinking about trying that because I wanted to read a little bit about a cold plunge. Taking a cold plunge in the morning can provide an invigorating start to your day. Cold water immersion triggers chemical reactions in the body. These chemical reactions increase energy levels and enhance mental alertness. At first, submerge slowly. For beginners, it is recommended to start with 30 seconds to 1 minute of cold immersion and gradually increase to 2 to 3 minutes eventually. It is important to monitor your body's response and to listen to your body's signals if you feel uncomfortable or experience any adverse effects. If you're cutting down on your amounts of Kratom, I think this is a good move. I'm going to probably do this at some point. I will video